Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Publicly Buzzed Live on none other than a Tuesday here. Thanks everyone for being here. Appreciate it. Yeah, tonight we are going to be going over the life and the crimes of Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber. Yeah, let me look through the chat here just real quick. Appreciate everybody coming in here. Creepy Crystal, Rich Buddy, CR, Bonnie Bailey, Shannon Nishoka. Hope I'm not butchering that. I know you're new here. You're here for the Murder Church on Sunday, and welcomed you in. And I think you membered up then as well. Much appreciated. Joanne, Sam, thanks for modding. Shannon from the Shaming a J channel, thank you very much. Everybody, thank you. Appreciate it, guys, for hanging out. Yeah, gonna be going over. I have a lot of stuff actually here to go over. Hopefully, I'm probably gonna jumble a lot of this up. I've been kind of studying this and looking at this all day. Which, you know, I was familiar with this out the gate, but I've actually dug even deeper into this. Jay, what's going on? I see you popping in the chat. Yeah, he just passed away. He was found in his jail cell, dead at 81, and he had a pretty fascinating life. Early life, genius. This man was a genius, graduated before he could even drive. He was in Harvard before he could even drive at the age of 16 years old. You know, went through an unusual situation at Harvard we're going to get into. Some psychological studies that was done by Dr. Murray there. And yeah, and just kind of dropped out of regular life. He ended up teaching for about 6 or 7 years. We're going to get into all that. But yeah, the man had a very interesting life in general. You know, it really sucks, honestly, that he went down the path he went down, because this man could have maybe changed the lives of a lot of people. The manifesto that he wrote, if you do read through that, there's a lot of good points in there. He makes a lot of good points, is what's crazy, especially with the world that we live in today. But at the end of the day, this guy was an anarchist. He was all about destruction, and did not care who he hurt to get his word out there. Let's just say it like that. Yeah, let's jump over here real quick. The old intro nets. Got a couple of things. Again, I have a lot of stuff actually laid out here. We're just going to kind of dive into. I got some notes to go through. Again, if I miss anybody that's coming here, thank you very much, Firefly. Appreciate it. Seeing you popping through as well. But yeah, we'll start out in the notes I hear in his young life. Again, this guy was a genius coming out the gate. Now I did read something else that I don't have actually pulled up here. You know, he Hold on, actually, we'll just start right out the gate here. I'm getting ahead of myself early here. And again, I'm going to post this article right here. This is a great article. This is from archive.is. I'm going to put this in the description. This is huge. I have a lot of different things pulled out of here, but this goes over his entire life, basically. A man that actually corresponded with him while he was in prison. And then I have another interesting point that actually is supposedly a letter written from Kaczynski, saying that a lot of the stuff that's in the culture, a lot of the stuff about this psychological study that was done by Dr. Murray while he was there at Harvard, he's saying in this letter that a lot of that has actually been amped up by the media and sensationalized. So I'll show you that as well, the letter that I actually found. Yeah, he had trouble socializing in school, honestly, probably being so smart and being an outcast. His physics teacher, Robert Ripley, described him as being honest, ethical, and sociable. And all the quotes that I can find from people that are talking about this man. And what's crazy is even after the fact, right? Even after he was found out to be the Unabomber and causing 3 deaths and tons of other injuries, we're going to go over those as well. People still, said you should probably read this manifesto and take heed to it in a lot of ways. Honest, ethical, and sociable. His American government teacher, Philip Pemberton, said he had many friends and indeed seemed to be their ringleader. Well, right there saying he's been many friends. Now, he did that I read later on. He got in like a group of other friends that were also smart like he was, and he did end up getting, and that's when he actually got turned on to math as well here. Paul Jenkins used Kaczynski as a kind of teaching assistant to help students who were having trouble in math. School reports regularly gave him high remarks for neatness or respect for others, courtesy, respect for law and order, and self-discipline. No one was more lavish in praise of Kaczynski than Louis Skillen, his high school counselor. Of all the youngsters have worked with at the college level, she wrote to Harvard. Now listen to this. This is her actually writing about him. Just want to make sure my levels are looking good here. I believe Ted has one of the greatest contributions to make to society. He is reflective, sensitive, and deeply conscious of his responsibilities to society. His only drawback is a tendency to be rather quiet in his original meetings with people, but most adults on our staff and many people in the community who are mature find him easy to talk to and very challenging intellectually. He has a number of friends among the high school students and seems to influence them to think more seriously. Now, when I mentioned earlier that he didn't have a lot of friends, I think that was in the younger years, actually. Now, as he did get older, he was actually in a group. What did they call themselves? I should have wrote that down, but they all carried briefcases. It might have been like the Briefcase Club or something like that. He was in the chess club, of course. And again, a literal mathematician. Becoming a mathematician, rather. Kaczynski was accepted by Harvard in the spring of '58. He was not yet 16 years old. One friend remembers urging Kaczynski's father not to let the boy go. He's too young, too immature, and Harvard too impersonal. But again, Turk wouldn't listen. Ted's going to Harvard was an ego trip for him. Now, his parents absolutely love the fact that he was a genius with a 167 IQ. Okay. He skipped the 6th grade, skipped many grades even. Now, I do want to just touch on Dr. Murray here for a minute. So, he gets into Harvard, and once he gets into Harvard, I think he has a year before he actually gets up and gets into this psychological study. Now, digging a little bit deeper back into this Murray character, I found that, he had he basically, had a lot to do with the original CIA. Office of Strategic Services, which became the CIA, in helping to develop psychological screenings tests for applicants, according to Timothy Leary. Monitoring military experiments on brainwashing. Again, this is just kind of a little bit of a backstory on Dr. Murray here. Again, the guy that a lot of times when you hear about the Kaczynski story, this is what you're going to hear first. You're going to hear, was he a part of MKUltra? Was he a part of the LSD experiments at Harvard? Kaczynski says no. He actually says that's not true. And a lot of this gets jumbled up because, who's going to be listening to, this madman, right? But yeah, let me, and again, the CIA, even today, a lot of stuff that you're not going to get, from the history books and of actually, you know, telling the truth about some of the stuff that's gone on inside of the walls of these places. One of the tests that Murray devised for the OSS was intended to determine how well applicants withstood interrogations, as he and his colleagues described it in their 1948 report, Selection of Personnel for Clandestine Operations, Assessment of Men. The candidate immediately went downstairs to a basement room. A voice from within commanded him to enter, and on complying, he found himself facing a spotlight strong enough to blind him for the moment. The room was otherwise dark. Behind the spotlight sat a board of inquisitors. The interrogator gruffly ordered the candidate to sit down. When he did so, he discovered that the chair in which he sat was so arranged that the full strength of the beam would focus directly in his face. At first, the questions were asked in a quiet, sympathetic manner to invite confidence. After a few minutes, however, the examiner worked up to a crescendo of a dramatic fashion, which an inconsistency appeared. He raised his voice and lashed out at the candidate, often with a sharp sarcasm. So, and even before this, they had, you know, this kind of goes into what the psychological studies was at Harvard. They had these guys come in. It was a number of people, and it was willing. You know, Kaczynski went in willingly to do this. I'm sure they probably said something along the lines of, you know, I don't know if it was extra credit or whatever, but I'm sure there was some kind of reason that you would be a part of. No, it's probably actually, this is going to further your career, right? The same thing happens today in a lot of college campuses, but probably something indicated that he's like, yeah, I need to go do this. This would help further me. And again, he's young as fuck. Think about that. Think about how young he is when he's in a year later. What is he, 17? He's not even legally an adult yet at Harvard, getting into this psychological study with Dr. Murray. Now, I do want to show you this. I found this letter, the chat here just for a second. Seeing Shannon's comment right here. Let me pop that up. Actually, I don't even have that set up. Give me 1 second. Pop out my chat here real quick, guys. There's so much. I was trying to keep all this in my head too. It's a lot going on, but I do want to pop this one. Actually, I don't even know how far back I am. But if you are just hanging out, please hit that like. Appreciate it right there. Bam. Cool research, Steve. How long have you been interested in him? I am definitely interested in his psychology. That's what I'm saying. I've always kind of known about Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber, and I've always kind of I've heard about this manifesto, right? I've heard about he hated technology, hated about the way basically the world was going forth. And I get that aspect of it, especially today, and especially the way we see people are glued to cell phones. I actually get what he's saying. But again, it's absolutely horrible and horrendous that he lives by an anarchist attitude where he actually doesn't care if he hurts people. You know, in his head, he's sending out these. So he was the Unabomber. He sent out mail boxes, bombs. You know, one was a cigar box, and numerous of other things that to universities, to post offices, to airports. He tried to blow up a plane. When he'd send these packages to universities, he would send them to the head of computer science, stuff like that. He did not want basically any society to advance. And I see a membership came through here. CR, thank you very much. Appreciate that. I think I'm gonna miss it. Boom, boom, boom. Thank you so much. I appreciate the hell out of that. Getting the members, give them the beers in the chat, guys. Got to drop the beers in the chat. Drop the beers. Yeah, anytime we get new members, we got to give them the beers. Thank you so much. See Ricky, my brother, coming through here. Appreciate it. Dropping a Bob emoji. He was a genius. He was an absolute freaking genius. Absolutely. It's this one's gotten me today. This one's really interesting, and we're going to dive a little bit deeper here. So again, with Murray here, even anticipation of this test was enough to cause some applicants, and then this is back to this is not the actual Harvard test we're talking about here. This is the beginning of the CIA. This is the late 40s at this point in time. To fall apart, the authors wrote that one person insisted he could not go through with the test. They continued a little later. The director found the candidate in his bedroom, sitting on the edge of his cot sobbing. So, I mean, this man would put you through, as you can imagine, absolutely horrible psychological trauma. But again, I've got a letter to show you that's really interesting and contradicts this. Before the war, Murray had been the director of Harvard, not necessarily contradicts this part. This is the history of Murray. But what you've heard about these tests, though, I found very interesting today. Has been the director of the Harvard Psychological Clinic. After the war, Murray returned to Harvard, where he continued to refine techniques of personality assessment. In 1948, he sent a grant application to the Rockefeller Foundation proposing to develop the development of the system of procedures for testing the suitability, of officers candidates for the Navy. By 1950, he had resumed studies on Harvard undergraduates that he had begun rudimentary form before the war, titled Multiform Assessments of Personality Development Among Gifted College Men. The experiment in which Kaczynski participated was the last and most elaborate in the series. In their post-war form, these experiments focused on a stressful dyadic relations, designing confrontations akin to those mock interrogations he had helped to orchestrate in a predecessor to the CIA. It was the confluence of two streams of development that transformed Ted Kaczynski into the Unabomber. One stream was personnel, fed by his anger toward his family and those who he felt had slighted or hurt him in high school or college. The other derived from his philosophical critique of society and in its institutions, and reflected the culture of despair he encountered at Harvard and later. The Murray experiment, containing both psychological and philosophical components, may well have fed both streams. And Dara, I see you, girl, coming through here with that 9.99 super sticker. Dara, my God, I just did it. I'm leaving. I've got to get out of here. We're gonna have to change your name. Dara like Sarah. I've got to put it right here in front of me. Dara, thank you so much for that. I appreciate the hell out of it. Boom. Ricky's got it at least. It's like I just see it and I just shoot it off. Dara. It's that country. I mean, it's that West Virginia. I'm telling you right now. It's that West Virginia comes out. Now, this is the letter that I did want to show you guys real quick. So, let me pop this up here. I want to make sure this is able to be seen pretty. Well, you can't. Okay, hold on. 1 second. Well, that is going to work right off, but I get that. Well, I'll get that in just a second. Anyway, I have a letter that contradicts a lot of the stuff that people have instilled in maybe the media, or it's just in the general zeitgeist of humanity now, that they think that this experiment was terrible. But in Ted's actual words, he says that it is not. Now I'll get that in a minute. I got a couple of videos that I'll play and I'll get that set up. But let me see here. So he actually graduated from Harvard, folks. He graduates from Harvard, going through this, psychological experiment with Murray here. So from 62 to 67, he's a teacher. He ends up at the University of Berkeley and ends up leaving abruptly. Okay, when he left Berkeley, his bosses didn't know why. They were actually asked later on. They're like, what ended up happening here, when they started digging a little bit deeper into this man, and he just up and left. Now, he says, he did a lot of interviews as well. He says what happened was, I'm seeing the chat now. Dare, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Now, kind of lost my thought process there for a second. That'll happen here as well, folks. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Yeah, after he finished, leaving Berkeley, basically when he left Berkeley in 68, in his own words, he was saying that he couldn't make eye contact. He couldn't relate to his students. He couldn't even he only taught from the book directly. He wouldn't answer questions. So he was already kind of disconnecting from society at that point in time. So he moves back to his parents' house. And then at this point in time, he starts to build a cabin in the woods. So, in the early 1970s, Kaczynski had given up on his old life and settled in Montana. He built himself a small cabin near Lincoln, where he lived in near total isolation, hunting rabbits, growing vegetables, and spending much of his time reading. While living this remote survivalist lifestyle, Kaczynski developed his own anti-government, anti-technology philosophy. In 1978, Kaczynski moved back to Chicago to work in the same factory as his brother. While there, he had a relationship with a female supervisor, but eventually it turned sour. In retaliation, Kaczynski wrote crude limericks, and he ended up getting fired from this job. But after he built this cabin, in 78, that's when he started building his first bombs and sending them out. Now, he also at one point in time completely, disavowed women and sexual relationships. Now, was this the last time that, the straw that broke the camel's back? There's lots of, anything that I found today, I don't think he ever really had a lot of relationships with women. Now, real quick, because I have a couple of things I want to show, and I just have to fix something real quick. I'm going to just play a couple of videos here. And this is kind of fast forwarding to when they were actually the manhunt, right? And when they're actually trying to find him. Thanks everyone for hanging out. Now, I have a couple of really cool things I want to show. I've got a letter that I have here and a couple of quotes, and some absolutely crazy. If anybody looks up and any of the quotes from this man, they're kind of jaw dropping. If you want to be absolutely honest. They took me aback today. Again, reprehensible human being. No other way to look at that. He was but at the end of the day, the genius level, whatever, and a lot of these geniuses, it's sad because they're too smart for their own good, right? Like this guy's trapped in his own brain, seeing what's happening in society. And he was a little bit of a prophet in a way with some of these quotes. But again, he actually didn't care who he hurt. Because when some of these bombs went out, they didn't exactly get to who they were addressed to, right? Like, I mean, come on. And even still, you can't do that. But yeah, let's watch this for 1 second. I just want to fix something over here on the side so I can show you that stuff. Make sure this is playing. Again, thanks everyone for hanging out. Hit that like if you have not. Appreciate the hell out of it.
Taken into custody a man they suspect as the Unabomber. This drama is unfolding outside the tiny town of Lincoln, Montana, and Tom Foreman is there.
Here? Yeah, it is. We're going to be moving people in and out of here, so y'all got to step back. Nobody's going to be in the way when the vehicle comes through. Please just step back.
After 17 years of looking, today FBI agents think they may have finally had a look at the Unabomber. Late this afternoon, Ted Kaczynski was taken from his backwoods cabin, leaving folks in the nearby town of Lincoln stunned.
He was just a real quiet guy. He came to town. He never bothered anybody. He never gave anybody a hard time. He was never in trouble, never was at the bars. Just a real quiet guy. And, if you had a conversation, it was a real intelligent conversation with him. He's just not the guy that I would think would be the Unabomber.
Locals say Kaczynski has lived here for about 18 years in his cabin down a dirt road. Today, the FBI sealed the area off as they searched his property. Those who have gone to his place say it has no indoor plumbing, no electricity, that he grew his own vegetables, and had scores of books. Gene Udarian went there as a census taker and found a pleasant but reserved man.
Reclusive, hermit type, He didn't go out of his way to make friends or anything like that, He wasn't what you would call a social person.
When he came to town, always alone, Kaczynski, who did not own a car, rode a bicycle. One of his favorite stops, the library. There, people say he told them he was a Vietnam veteran living on a pension. Former librarian Beverly Coleman says he often wore army green or camouflage clothing and had unusual taste.
He didn't read like the normal junk the rest of us read.
You had to order in the books?
Oh, yeah. Most generally, you had to order anything in for him because what he wanted was so off the wall. And a lot of stuff he wanted was out of print for years. He's very, very well read man, very educated man.
The other place he was frequently seen, the post office.
I've seen him come out of the post office. I've seen him mail things, just being in there.
Like letters or packages?
No, I don't know. We all go to the post office, everybody. Nobody gets their mail delivered to them, so I don't ever remember packages or anything.
At this hour, Kaczynski is believed to be in Helena, where he was taken by the FBI. At last report, in a small windowless office on the 3rd floor of a building that the FBI keeps in this town. Koki?
Tom, what happens tomorrow in Helena?
It's hard to say what's going to happen. Right now, at last report, he has not been charged with anything. Now, if he is charged, he would be arraigned tomorrow in Helena. But at this moment, the FBI is looking at things. A lot of people here are looking at things and wondering just that very thing. What's going to happen with Ted Kaczynski tomorrow?
Thanks, Tom Foreman in Montana. And now from San Francisco at our station KGO-TV, ABC's chief investigative reporter Brian Ross. Brian, what brought the investigators to this point? Finally a suspect.
Well, Koki, it really was a phone tip that a lawyer for the Kaczynski family called in, a tip that ironically was almost ignored and almost put in sort of not the A file but the B file. But one agent here in San Francisco took the time and began to work it. The problem was that they had thought all along the suspect was somebody who lived in the San Francisco area. And when it first came in as somebody in Montana, it was ignored. But as they looked closer and closer at this man, they found he began to fit the profile. In particular, the fact that he, in the mid-'80s, worked in the Salt Lake City area as a construction worker, an area where one bomb was mailed and another bomb went off.
Now, tomorrow's New York Times is reporting that the FBI has fingerprints, typewriter imprints, unexploded devices, and, interestingly, DNA analysis of his saliva from the stamps on the postage. Have you heard those reports, and what are they saying about them?
That's right, Koki. In fact, ABC News has learned tonight that in the raid today and the search warrant that went down at his home, they're looking for a typewriter, certain kinds of stamps, a particular kind of blue and red striped mailing label, and also a certain kind of pipe bomb and an explosive filler. With the stamps, they hope they can do a DNA kind of test that would match him up. Those are the things they need to actually have a case that would stand up in court. It's one thing to call him a suspect, it's another to prove it in front of a jury.
Thank you, Brian Ross in San Francisco.
After he's been tagged in multiple social media.
Got those pictures up here now. And also, I think I missed one of these super chats. Let me pop this up here. Hold on. Sorry about that. Farts and Truth, $1.99. Kaczynski's funeral will be mail invitation only. Thank you very much. Oh, shit. And that's not even coming through. Hold on. I forgot to actually put that over here. We'll get it, guys. We'll get it. But I have this letter that I have desperately been trying to show you. Bam! Thank you very much for that. Appreciate it. And you are not wrong. Okay, so the first one here. I'll make it big enough so it can actually be seen. Hopefully it's all though. All right, I'm going to read this though. So now keep in mind, okay, this is the guy that this archives.is is being written by someone that corresponded with Kaczynski regularly. Okay, also another Harvard graduate. He has a lot of he feels like he has a lot of kinship towards him, not for the murders, of course, but for a lot of other reasons. Now, this is a letter from February 2nd, 2018. A lot of people corresponded with him regularly still. Thank you for your, and I'm not saying this is actually from the same person here, but this is written, what we're taking this from, and this is going to be at the end of this in the description. It's very informative. This goes through in deep detail, but this letter, Mr. Kaczynski. All right. Thank you for your undated letter postmarked 12/15/17. Now this is from Ted to another Andrew Kaczynski. Okay. It's a little confusing there, which I received on 12/21/17. I'm sorry I've taken so long to answer it, but I have too much work to do. And at the age of 75, I can't keep up with it all. That, adds up with where he just died at the age of 81. I'm writing mainly to call your attention to my book, Anti-Tech Revolution, Why and How, which may be of interest to you. You can order a copy from, and he gives the websites here, but I'll also answer your question concerning the Discovery Channel series about my case. I haven't seen the series myself, but to judge from what people have written to me about it, it's mostly fiction. This does not surprise me in the least. Media reports about me have generally been loaded with bull manure. In particular, reports about the Murray study have been wildly exaggerated. People write to tell me how sorry for me they feel because I was tortured again and again by the Murray group as part of an MKUltra experiment allegedly carried out by the CIA. Now, again, the MKUltra, if anybody looks into that, that is a very real thing, where they did, you know, give unwitting people LSD. Actually, there was only one unpleasant experience in the Murray study. It lasted about half an hour and could not reasonably have been described as traumatic. Again, he did this for 3 years with Dr. Murray. Mostly the study consisted of interviews and filling out pencil and paper personality tests. The CIA was not involved, and about 15 or 20 years ago, a TV journalist named Chris Vlasto, if I remember the name correctly, he says, looked up some of the other participants in the study and found that nothing had happened that was worth reporting in the media. My brief correspondence with Vlasto should be available in the University of Michigan Special Collections Library at Ann Arbor on the inaccuracy of the Discovery series, see Discovery Channel TV series on Unabomber, disrespects the investigation's achievements by the FBI. So, yeah, he, in his own words, he is saying that a lot of that is not true or bullshit. So I thought that was very interesting. I don't know. And you know how just in the media, we live in an age today where a lot of this stuff can be called out pretty quickly, and is, right? Now, I wanted to get into this bomb making a little bit here. I've got a couple of things right here. Timeline of the Unabomber devices. And then in the Wikipedia, they have a pretty good layout of the bombs and when they were actually sent here. So between 1978 and 1995, Kaczynski mailed or hand-delivered a series of increasingly... Get it, baby. We're getting it. We're getting it. Shit. Oh, yeah. Of increasingly sophisticated bombs, okay, that killed 3 people and injured 23 others. 16 bombs were attributed to Kaczynski, while the bombing devices varied widely through the years, many containing the initials FC for Freedom Club inscribed on parts inside. He purposely left misleading clues in devices and took extreme care of preparing them to avoid leaving fingerprints. Again, this man is a fucking genius. Now, his journals are online also. I was digging through those today. And I think that I've got one of his journals. Okay, yeah, right here. This is from August 18th, 1980, from his journal. June 19th, 1980, I sent a bomb to P.A. Wood, president of United Airlines. According to the newspapers, hospitalized with cuts and burns and had surgery for removal of fragments. Now, he didn't kill anybody for a long period of time. As you can see right down through here, he sent a number of bombs from 78 to 85 to 96, but his first death was in 1985, if I'm remembering correctly here. Death, yes. Hugh Scrunton was his actual first death. So a lot of injuries and bad injuries. So shrapnel, 200 pieces of shrapnel in one of these person's bodies. Surgeries, people lost hands, hearing, eyes. It's not just nothing here, okay? He purposely left misleading clues. Oh, sorry, I was reading the wrong thing there. Again, had to have surgery to remove these fragments. Post office offered $5,000 reward for identification of culprit. FBI said bomb had enough power to kill, but faulty craftsmanship. Now, he gets a little bit offended by this. Watch this. Weakened it because culprit left something loose. This is false. Though my design may have been poor due to ignorance or of the technology, the detonator did all I designed it to do. It ignited the powder. I know for certain there was nothing loose in the explosive unit itself because the ends of the pipe were stopped with wooden plugs fastened with epoxy, and for each plug, 2 nails passing through plug in both sides of the pipe. There would be nothing else to get loose that would weaken explosive. It would weaken explosion. Probably bomb weak from naive design. Now, admittedly, naive design there, that was interesting. Or FBI mistaken about type of powder. They were partly wrong about type of switch used, judging from newspaper. Now, he's writing this stuff alone, all right, in his cabin that he's built, and he's living in this thing from the early 70s all the way to 1996 when he's caught. Now, then this is 1980 here. Another really interesting one I found here. So this is him talking, right? Now, he was an outdoor survivalist. Okay, he learned to become an outdoor survivalist. And this is from him. This is a quote from him. It's kind of a rolling country, not flat. And this is him talking about an area that's 2 miles from his cabin that he loved to go to. And when you get to the edge of it, you find these ravines that cut very deeply into the cliffs like drop-offs. And there was even a waterfall there. It was about a 2 days hike from my cabin. That was the best spot into the summer of 1983. That summer, there were too many people around my cabin, so I decided I needed some peace. I went back to the plateau, and when I got there, I found there was a road right through the middle of it. You just can't imagine how upset I was. It was from that point on, I decided that rather than trying to acquire further wilderness skills, I would work at getting back at the system. Revenge. Okay? Now look at this. Now, they would defuse some of these bombs. We can go through some of these right here. May 25th, 1978, a passerby found a package. Addressed and stamped in a parking lot of the University of Illinois, Chicago Circle campus. The package was returned to the person listed on the return address, Northwestern University professor Buckley Christ Jr. He did not recognize the package and called campus security. The package exploded upon opening and injured the security officer. May 9th, 1979, a graduate student at Northwestern University is injured when he opened a box that looked like a present. It had been left in a room used by graduate students. November 15th, 1979, American Airlines Flight 444 flying from Chicago to D.C. fills with smoke after a bomb detonates in the luggage compartment. The plane lands safely since the bomb did not work as it intended. Several passengers suffered from smoke inhalation. June 10th, 1980, United Airlines President Percy Woods is injured when he opened a package holding a bomb encased in a book called Ice Brothers by Sloan Wilson. October 8th, 1981, a bomb wrapped in a brown paper and tied with a string is discovered in a hallway of a building at the University of Utah. The bomb is safely detonated without causing injury. May 5th, 1982, a bomb sent to the head of the computer science department at Vanderbilt University injuries his secretary after she opened it in his office. July 2nd, 1982, a package bomb left the break room. This guy's busy. This is in Berkeley. It explodes and injures an engineering professor. May 15th, 85, another bomb in the Corey Hall at the University of California, Berkeley injures an engineering student. June 13th, 85, a suspicious package sent to Boeing Fabrication Division in Washington is safely detonated, but most of the forensics evidence was lost. November 15th, 85, a University of Michigan psychology professor and his assistant are injured when they opened a package containing a 3-ring binder that had a bomb. The bomber included a letter asking the professor to review a student's master thesis. December 11th, 85, a bomb left in the parking lot of a Sacramento computer store kills the store's owner. February 20th, 87, another bomb left in the parking lot of Salt Lake City computer store severely injures the son of the store's owner. A store employee sees the man left the bomb, and that witness accounted helped the sketch artist create the composite sketch that is famous, the hood with the mustache and the glasses. June 22nd, 93. Now, big gap there. Genetist, I'm butchering that, at the University of California is injured after opening a package that exploded in his kitchen. June 24th, 93, a prominent computer scientist from Yale University lost several fingers to a mail bomb. December 19th, 94, an advertising executive is killed by a package bomb sent to his New Jersey home. And April 24th, 95, a mailed bomb kills the president of the California Forestry Association. Now, he was pissed off because they were taking down his land around him as well. He would actually set up booby traps around his property. I mean, this guy was not messing around. FBI gets involved though after 79 once the American Airlines Flight 444 incident. You see here FBI reproduction of one of Kaczynski's bombs, and I have one thing over here. This is a quote. I think it's, who was this one? I'll show it in a second. But as we'll get there, they've actually taken I think it's at the bottom. No, it's not. Fuck. They've actually taken the entire cabin, and it's inside of an FBI like crime museum now currently. And I would say that's in DC. Oh, Stevie Irwin coming through with a membership here. I just noticed. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Let's knock that out of the way. Appreciate that. Oh, you guys came in here. That shit. I'm fucking it all up tonight. I apologize. I really have been spending all day like trying to get this all like in my head and like I try not to fuck it up. I'm sure I've still fucked it up. Let's try it again.
Welcome to the party, pal.
Boom. And all the other ones that you didn't hear. My God. Lord. I haven't been able to read a lot of the chat either. Thank you all for hanging out. Seriously. Appreciate it. Everybody hanging out tonight. Everybody hanging out tonight on a Tuesday. Let me look at the chat here for just a second. Boom, bringing it through. Shannon, thank you so much. Wildside. Yeah, give him the beers. Forgot all about that too. Give him the beers. Stevie gets the beers now. Every time we get a new member here, ladies and gentlemen, make sure to load up chat with the beers. Welcome them. And thanks Sam as well. Sam sent me a lot of information that you're seeing here tonight. She's a hard worker here on the backside of Publicly Buzz. Jamie, thank you for modding, brother. Appreciate it. And Ricky Cookerback. My brother Dan's hanging out in there as well. There they are, baby. Got the beers rolling. Got the beers rolling. Thank you so much, guys. This is a crazy story. This is a wild one. But yeah, the FBI gets involved on this. Let's see here. He delivered his first bomb in 78. And again, that took them a long period of time to actually how many bombs in total? I just saw that come through from Heavy Metal Rehab. I think that this should have an accurate count, especially on the Wikipedia. You know what? If you're asking in total, even the ones that were found at his residence, at the cabin when he was found, I think that there was a number found there as well. But sent out, we have that number. We have what here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 sent out that we know of. That either did go off or was defused or, detonated safely, which is very interesting. So it comes up on a time period where Kaczynski is tired, I guess, of sending out these bombs, and he wants to get his words out there, right? Who knows how long it took him to write a 35,000 word manifesto, but he made demands. He wanted this posted in a reputable publication, the Washington Post, New York Times. And he even says he didn't want it in something like Penthouse. He says right here. Let's see here. Let's read a little bit of this. In 1995, Kaczynski mailed several letters to the media outlets outlining his goals and demanding a major newspaper print his words. And this did happen, folks. He stated he would desist from terrorism if this demand was met. They printed this, there was controversy as to whether the essay should be published by Attorney General Janet Reno and FBI Director Louis Freeh. Recommended its publication out of concern for public safety and in the hope that a reader could identify the author. Bob Guccione of Penthouse volunteered to publish it. Kaczynski replied Penthouse was less respectable than New York Times and the Washington Post, and said that to increase our chances of getting our stuff published in some respectable periodical, he would reserve the right to plant one and only one bomb intended to kill after our manuscript had been published in Penthouse, published to document it. That's crazy. So Washington Post published this on September 19th, 1995. Kaczynski used a typewriter to write his manuscript, capitalizing entire words for emphasis. He always referred to himself as either we or Freedom Club FC, though there is no evidence that he worked with others. Now, there is a lot of quotes in this that are crazy and interesting. Let's see, do I have this one? What was this one I pulled up? So here's one. Industrial society and its future begins with Kaczynski's assertion, the Industrial Revolution and its consequences have been a disaster for the human race. He wrote that technology has had a destabilizing effect. Now, when you hear some of this stuff, it registers. Technology has had a destabilizing effect on society, has made life unfulfilling, and has caused widespread psychological suffering. Says Kaczynski argued that most people spend their time engaged in useless pursuits because of technological advances. Does that sound familiar? He called these surrogate activities wherein people strive toward artificial goals, including scientific work, consumption of entertainment, political activism, and following sports teams. He just called out all of social media and Twitter and TikTok. He predicted that further technological advances would lead to extensive human genetic engineering, and that human beings would be adjusted to meet the needs of social systems rather than vice versa. Kaczynski stated that technological progress can be stopped, in contrast to the viewpoint of people who he said understood technology's negative effects, yet passively accept the technology as inevitable, and it is. That's the thing. Even when he says it can be stopped, there was no stopping everything that was already going down. He called for a return to primitivist lifestyles. Kaczynski's critiques of civilization bore some similarities to anarcho-primitivism, but he rejected that. That's funny, because he was an absolute anarchist. I mean, he wanted to tear down society. He wanted to tear down norms. I've got another quote here. The Industrial Revolution and its consequences have been a disaster for the human race. They have greatly increased the life expectancy of those of us who live in advanced countries, but they have destabilized society, have made life unfulfilling, have subjected human beings to indignities, and have led to widespread psychological suffering in the third world, to physical suffering as well, and have inflicted severe damage on the natural world. The continued development of technology will worsen the situation. It will certainly subject human beings to greater indignities and inflict greater damage on the natural world. It will probably lead to greater social disruption and psychological suffering, and it may lead to increased physical suffering, even in advanced countries. A lot of that is hitting right on the nail on the head, guys. Look at the world around us. Look at how we get the technology to hold these in our freaking hands, man. There's people out there that suffer because of that. Now, I know better than anyone else, and we're addicted to these things, but I mean, there's a lot that he says that makes a lot of sense. It's crazy. When reading through a lot of this today, it was hitting, but at the same time, he went too far. I mean, again, he was in prison from 1996 till literally this week when the man died. So, but I should put all this in the description because there's so much interesting stuff here, guys. Just for a second. Oh, and then of course, okay. So his brother. So when this actually gets published, this manifesto, he made a mistake. Who would know not his handwriting, but the way he talked, right? The way he spoke in his writing. That's where he fucked up. So his brother's wife wanted his brother David Kaczynski to take a look at this. And when he did, he was floored because he instantly knew this was from his brother who lived in a cabin in the woods. He then contacted the FBI. The FBI then went and looked into it, and of course they found a cabin full of bomb making materials, finished bombs, and a lot of other incriminating stuff. Now, when he was actually arrested, he didn't believe that his brother turned him in. He said he would never do that. He loves me. They actually had to go out and buy a paper and show it to him. And he said he would never speak to his brother again. I watched an interview today actually with Oprah. His brother said that he has written him. He's actually reached out to try to be able to visit him. And his brother has never had any kind of real correspondence since he was turned in from. I thought that was crazy. So I'm trying to keep up a little bit with chat here in front of me. And thanks everyone for hanging out. Appreciate it. This right here is not his full manifesto. I will post that. I've got the full manifesto, and I think it was Mandy that actually sent me that. Yeah, here. This is 34 pages that you can flip through. Plus this here, but this is the entire manifesto. Yeah, read through that if you would like. Yeah, he definitely went too far, Kayla. that's the bottom line here. Yeah, and I mean, we can reading through this. I don't know how many times it touched base with me on a lot of. We live right now. I put it in that tweet earlier. We live in the height of what he would hate or even warned us about. Right? Imagine him being in prison. Right? I don't know how often he was around television sets. I would imagine it would be pretty interesting when the day came that his guards started walking around being zombies. I don't know if they're allowed to do that, but I'm sure they figure out a way, right? Just like the rest of us. And he's like, damn, he literally could see this happen in front of him. It's fucking interesting. It's really interesting. I don't think there's any direct connection, Caroline. I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong, anybody. Yeah, I feel bad for the brother as well, Shannon. It's a wild one. It's very wild. Let me see here. Let me real quick look at my notes. Oh, that's a good poll, Rich Buddy. I'm gonna put a poll up right now. Would you turn your family member in? I'm just gonna leave it yes and no. Oh, I'll put yes and yes. Oh my God. Hold on. Yes and yes, Dan. Oh God, that cracked me up. Yes. And no. See what these people in the chat are going to say here. It is. I think being a genius, especially at this level, is a bit of a curse. You're too smart for your own good. It's almost like you know so much, right? And this guy read books in his journals. He would go by the years and just list out the books that he would read during that time period. Yeah, I mean, again, have been a disaster for the human race. I mean, and we continue to go down this weird technical, hell, we just had an episode about AI. Bob Mott was on here freaking out about where we're going. You know, it's interesting, man. It gets your brain pumping. No, yeah, the Ricky Kugerbeck done bailed out also on us. You know, freaking out in here. See, nope. Here we got, what do we got here? Out of 13 votes so far, yes, 77%. Now you got to think about this it's in this context. They're sending out bombs and actually harming and maiming and murdering people. That's the context here. No, 21%. Oh my God. Genius is a curse. Absolutely. Yeah, I've got a couple more videos popped up here we could kind of look through as well. Real quick.
And now, a page from our Sunday morning almanac. April 3rd, 1996, 20 years ago today. The day the FBI arrested Theodore Kaczynski, the suspected Unabomber, at his cabin in rural Montana. Beginning in 1978, a mysterious series of bombings across the country had killed 3 people and wounded 23 others.
The bomb on the Yale campus today blew up in the computer sciences building.
The targets were mostly either universities or airlines.
Small bomb exploded in a mail pouch in the cargo hold.
Which explains the origin of his nickname, the Unabomber. For years, the only clue to his identity was this single sketch of a shadowy, hooded figure.
It was all there today, all 35,000 words of the Unabomber's message to America.
The big break came in 1995, when the Washington Post printed a long anti-technology manifesto from the Unabomber entitled Industrial Society and Its Future. Its ramblings reminded an upstate New York man named David Kaczynski of the kinds of things his older brother, Theodore, had written in the past. Once a brilliant math student at Harvard, Theodore Kaczynski had long since abandoned academia to live as a recluse in that remote Montana cabin. David Kaczynski's suspicions forced him to wrestle with a moral dilemma, as he told our Aaron Moriarty back in 2005.
Because of the death penalty, the likelihood would be that I'd either have some innocent person's blood on my hands if I did nothing, or my own brother's blood on my hands if I stepped forward.
David Kaczynski did step forward. He provided information that led to his brother's arrest and conviction. And with top legal aid, David was able to help his brother to escape the death penalty.
I would like to say that our reaction to today's plea agreement is one of deep relief.
Instead, Theodore Kaczynski is currently serving 4 life sentences without parole at the so-called Supermax prison in Colorado. On May 22nd, he will be 74 years old.
No, he ended up getting moved to North Carolina, which is where he ended up actually passing away. And I've been reading in the articles that they suspected actually committed suicide. So, shit.
I was with another agent, Pat Webb.
Inside the
Pat was
cabin.
an explosives agent. So we kind of opened the door just a bit to the cabin. And as we opened the door, we were both pretty much overcome. As we looked across the cabin at the shelves that were built on the other side of the door, we could see coffee cans and bottles and jars, and they all had labels on them, and they were very meticulously done. And we could see that some were labeled with the name of certain chemicals. One of the things we saw was a hooded sweatshirt, that was hanging up there, and the cabin smelled as if you might start to think, if you really think about this. This is a person who lived in this cabin, had a cutaway spot in the floor to go to the bathroom in if he needed to, and had built fires in the cabin. There was an old potbelly stove in there. So the smell of smoke was in everything. Pat Webb turns to me and he has tears in his eyes and one running down his cheek. And he said, this is it. We found the Unabomber. At long last, this is over.
It's a very interesting one, man. Like, again, and to Shannon, she was saying she was super interesting in this one as well. And how long have I been interested in it? Again, I've always known about this one. And I remember being a child and like being in the news. And when he got caught, I was super young. I was 9 or 10 years old. And you always kind of think about it. But today when I actually started diving into it a little bit more, and even seeing the letter that was from him and him talking about the Murray stuff and how that's not necessarily true. And a little bit more, I've dove into that side of it. It doesn't seem like it. Somebody had dug up maybe some other people. I wish I'd have popped that up so I could have it here as a reference. I'm probably going to butcher it, but had dug up some other folks that were actually involved in the study, and they had a similar experience as what Ted was saying, that it wasn't so bad. So I don't know. Is there, because at the end of the day, they kind of want to put that on something, right? We all do. We want to be, well, did they break his brain? Did they break this guy by torturing him and drugging him? This is interesting right here. This is from 2000, July 14th. Murray Center seals Kaczynski data. Buried in a sleepy corner of the Harvard campus, somewhere in the nation's largest collection of psychological data, lies a slim folder whose sealed contents might help explain what drove the Unabomber to kill. We can't get him. Who was arrested in 1996 after killing 3 and injuring 16 in a string of mail bombings spread over 20 years. The results of the study, directed by famed psychologist Henry A. Murray, are now housed at the Radcliffe Institute Research Center, named in Murray's honor. But through the records may shed light on Kaczynski's psychological history, the Murray Center has locked the file up for good. We have a very strong policy of maintaining the confidentiality of people who participate in studies archived here. This particular file has been permanently removed, with the reason being that we cannot protect its confidentiality anymore. So that raises red flags, right? Anytime anything like that gets locked down, people are going to start talking, including me, trying to figure out what's going on. Kaczynski's code name in the study, Lawful, has become wildly known to journalists and researchers. See, it would undermine everything we try to do here, and it would really mean that we would begin to lose control over those important principles. In one part of the experiment, subjects were pressured to respond to questions asked under extreme duress, with bright lights and cameras pointed at them and electrodes attached to their bodies. Dr. Ross Niesler, who also took part in the study, said that participants also took the therapeutic appreciation test, a psychological test that Murray himself developed. The experiences left some participants scared for their life. Chase Cities, several other participants in the study, and that's true too, right? We haven't talked to everybody. We know Kaczynski, and if they had found a couple other people, there were like 22, don't quote me on that, but there was a small number of 20s, I'm thinking. I want to say it was 22 people that was a part of this, and again, they were willingly a part of this, but who knows what these other folks felt, right? And then if they're not talking, if we can't find them to ask them the questions, we don't know what they were feeling exactly. Several other participants who studied were quite disturbed by the experience and remembered years later how angry, frightened, and violated they felt. Chase suggests that feelings, and I mean, this is from somebody here, feelings that this might have driven Kaczynski to lash out against society. Kaczynski, according to Chase, was already mentally unstable before entering Harvard, and his 8 Prescott Streets residence during his first year only served to isolate him further from his fellow students. Murray's study, Chase speculates, took that isolation even further, pushing the psychological limits of the young participants in nearly every way possible. Murray, a former colonel in the U.S. Army and an agent of the OSS, again, predecessor to the CIA, made his remark on the government during World War II before returning to Harvard to continue his work as a professor. During his time with the OSS, according to his colleagues, Murray was obsessed with mind control and used LSD, among other drugs, attempting to determine how to brainwash subjects. Murray presented his findings after taking LSD at an international conference in Copenhagen, and some believe that Murray's Harvard studies, which, as Niesler recalled, never seemed to have any particular application. Murray, while at Harvard, said that Murray's interest, Murray's interest in mind-altering drugs continued after the war. He did do research involving LSD while he was at Harvard. We know that MKUltra was real. I'm just not sure that Kaczynski was officially actually a part of that through his own words, honestly. Some experts on Kaczynski's case, including the United States of America versus Kaczynski, have speculated that LSD tests may have been a part of the study, Kaczynski took part in, but Kaczynski himself does not recall taking the drug, and there is no evidence that LSD was part of that experiment. So, I would expect he would probably be pretty fucking pissed off and talking about that, especially being as smart as he is. He doesn't think that he was, I guess, manipulated, if you want to use that word, by this Dr. Murray. He probably wouldn't even want to give credit to anybody else, right? He's in his current, he's dead now, but at the time when he started to alter his thought process and go down the Unabomber train of thought, he probably didn't want to put the fucked up credit, give that credit to Dr. Murray, right? Because he likes what happened in prison. He wasn't like, no, I fucked up, I did wrong. No, he still was adamantly an anarchist. He still actually pushed for the burnings of like government buildings and stuff like that, and people would write to him and he would write back and like actually say good job. Like, so it's not like he was just like, it's interesting. It's a really fucking interesting story. Night, Shannon, thank you for hanging out, really appreciate it. Yeah, I'm getting ready to wrap this up myself here. Yeah, we go about an hour on Tuesdays. Just hit that mark. Tuesdays 10 p.m. Eastern time, having shows. Thursday, 10 p.m. Eastern time, having shows. This Thursday, 2 days from now, we're going to be covering the Melly trial that's going on right now. The rapper who is accused of double murder of his friends. Jay is covering that every single day right now. I have about 4 hours to catch up on from his trial today, but he's going to be coming on Thursday to go over that with us. It's a very interesting trial. It's been good so far. Been super interesting. Friday night, Feral Fridays, 10:30 p.m. Eastern time. We get a little bit wilder. We talk about a lot of crazy shit. You never know. We may talk about AI. We may talk about aliens. We may talk about ancient Egypt. You never know. It may be a crime story. You literally never know. I'm not sure even what Friday is going to be. You have to tune in to find out. Sunday mornings, 9 a.m. I know it's early. It's crazy. Murder Church. You have to show up for Murder Church because currently we're going through the Jeffrey Dahmer classic trial. It's an insanity trial, and it's pretty interesting. We're about to go into week 4. I will say viewer discretion is advised. We have been reading through a 60-hour confession where he does not hold anything back. And it's very, very graphic, just in the words. We're not seeing any visuals, but just the words have actually kind of messed up a couple of our viewers. So that warning. And at the beginning of every one of our shows, I throw that out there. Let's look at the poll just real quick. Would you turn your family member in? 21 votes, yes, 76%, no, 24%. We got some people that are holding out. Hit that like before you head out the door tonight, guys. Thank you all so much for hanging out. I appreciate the hell out of it. Yeah, please come back and hang out with us and Jay on Thursday. You never know what might happen. We're going to be getting into that Melly trial, which is crazy. It's a wild one. Again, double murder of his friends, his rapper, his buddies, his crew. They were coming up together. Yeah, I've been watching that one. It started on Monday, so today was day 2. So yeah, like I said, I'm about 4 hours behind. I'm going to catch up on that. And again, in the morning, 9 a.m. Make sure you're hanging out with Jay, who is currently demonetized, my friends. And there is a petition currently. Please go and sign the petition. It'll greatly help out Jay in his moment of need right now. He's got a lot of people coming through for him. He's absolutely amazing. He's the man. Like, trying to find this petition so I can post it here in the chat. Go sign this right now, folks. Boom. That's for Jay. Well, the link's too damn long to post. Fuck. Well, I'll tell you what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna post the Twitter handle. Go there and then follow the link through that Twitter page to help out Jay. Make sure you sign that, folks. Help him out. Thank you, Joanne. I can't wait to see you. Thank you, Sam. Caroline, thank you for hanging out. Appreciate it. CR, everybody hanging out tonight. Thank y'all so much. Yeah, that confession is pretty brutal. And I don't blame you, Wildside. I do not blame you. I do not blame anybody that's sitting that one out. It's pretty brutal. In the meantime, though, if you're not following me on Twitter, give us a follow over on Twitter. That's where a lot of action is happening daily. Make sure you're subbed up here on YouTube. If you have not subbed up, please do so. Really appreciate it. Hit the 3 little dots on the side. Make sure all notifications are clicked so you don't miss any community posts, live streams, or videos. And yeah, Thursday night, Dan will be with me as well, my brother, and we're going to have a good time covering a trial. So thank you all so much for hanging out. I appreciate it. I will see you Thursday.
See, we shoot them up bang bang over here. We not scared of they motherfucking ass.